4:35.
How about 5:34?
5:34. Like I said. All right, that's it. I gotta change this. Are we good? Yeah, cool. Thank you. So, meeting called to order at 5:34. First item of business is the minutes from the previous meeting, which is March 25th, which I think you all received a copy of. Any corrections or comments and changes to the minutes? If not, I will accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
Steve, second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay. Approved unanimously. We received, let's see, let's try to do this in order here. I had circulated, I don't know if you all saw it, I did it kind of in the middle of the afternoon. I sent around a copy of the new special town meeting warrant. Did any of you get a chance to
I
look
did
at that?
not,
You did.
actually.
Okay.
I can't get into my email at work. Something's going on.
Okay. Steve, did you get it? You have it with you, or
What?
the email I sent around this afternoon?
Yes, I have it, but I can't get anything because I can't get connected.
Oh,
The
okay.
town also. Password
All
is
Okay.
Well, yeah,
ran away from me.
I don't think we want to give the password out right now.
Yeah, probably not.
Password over, you type it in?
Anyway, so the special town meeting articles, there has been the biggest change that we were notified of by the town administrator was the fire request. Apparently,
From the limited cameras?
yeah, well, that's it was that and more.
6, was it Article 6?
Apparently the Lucas, yes,
Yeah.
the Lucas CPR unit,
Yep.
they did receive the grant, so that is $17,000 that has come off of that request. However, they've since come on in.
Guys are in trouble. Come on in.
Ah. We've only missed the meeting, the minutes so far, so.
I approve.
You probably didn't get a chance to, I sent around an email this afternoon.
I actually did. I scrolled through it on my phone.
Oh, okay, all right. So we're talking about the fire department request has been reduced because the grant apparently was received successfully for $17,000 for the CPR unit, which is obviously good news. However, it seems as though they need certain type of, and I was hoping Liz was going to come in and join us because she would know more about this. This is the first I saw of it was today. They apparently need some sort of special tablet and software to use to work with the ambulance billing service. Now I know they'd put out a bid for a new provider for the ambulance billing, so I don't know what that is about. So instead of $17,000 coming off, only $12,000 has come off of their request because there's apparently $5,000 worth of new hardware and software that they're requesting. So, again, hopefully we'll get more information about that. Other than that, I think everything else is pretty much the same as it was discussed last time. These are the special town meeting articles here.
What is that heading? GRPINS?
Group insurance, it's a they're expecting to have money left over from the group insurance line on the budget, so they're using it, they're considering transferring that. So this line here, the group health, they expect to have a pretty sizable figure left over.
And does it still need to go up that much next year? If it's that much lower this year?
That's a good question. Because you see, the actual for 18 is 350, and we budgeted 500 for next year. So
It looks like the actual's gonna be like 350 this year too.
right. That's a very good question.
Do you want to check on that one?
We will definitely check on that. But anyway, that's so they're expecting to have.
Okay.
I mean, they've got almost they got $145,000 out of that money, so they must be expecting to get 150 or so back. So,
And then the transfers
right.
are from the fire sale?
The fire. Well, that's not technically a transfer because that has to go into the general fund. And
Okay.
when we talked about when they sold the pumper for $60,000, and we authorized the payment for the exhaust, right? That was $26,000 or $27,000. The discussion that we had was it was going to come out of that 60 somehow. We were going to have to figure it out. So, and the repairs, this is the renovations to the kitchen and all that stuff that we talked about on our field trip over there. So that's what that $30,000 represents. But again, initially that was supposed to be the other part of that 60,000
Right.
from the sale of the
So
excess
where is it
pumper.
now coming from?
It's coming now from money that was returned from the last fiscal budget. So the 60,000 from the actual sale.
So there are some other lines that have.
Right, that have extra, yes.
So that's what, those transfers are just from other lines that have excess money this year.
Correct,
And the $60,000 from the sale has to go into the general budget and become free cash next year?
correct.
Okay. So, no, nothing special here. It all
It's never
just
as
goes into
smooth
the
as you'd
pot.
like it to be, right, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So that whole thing is taken care of without free cash or capital fund, the whole special town meeting.
Yeah, assuming we approve all of it too. I mean,
Right,
exactly.
exactly.
We haven't really gone through any of these
Right,
articles, which I wanted to do tonight to at least get a feel for some of these because I think some of them are no-brainers, but others I think we need to maybe have some discussion about. So, so why don't we do that then? As long as we are talking about it. Again, I was hoping to have.
Yeah. Is Barbara coming too?
I thought they were both.
I
coming.
thought so too.
Do you want me to check?
Well, Liz is here, but she's in the board of selectmen meeting at the moment, so maybe they are.
Maybe they're both there.
I didn't see Barbara.
Are we meeting with the selectmen this evening?
Not this evening.
John Trainer said to me when I came in that he wanted to come in later.
Yes, he's coming in to discuss a personnel issue.
Okay.
To really have to executive session.
Okay.
All right, this is taking forever to download.
There it is.
It's because they got Comcast.
It's cut off though.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So Article 1 is, I think, self-explanatory. It's to outfit any unforeseen costs for the police station. I think the way it was described before, the building of the police station is the building, but it's not some furniture. So this $25,000 was to buy some furniture that's not able to be salvaged from the existing facility and that sort of thing. So apparently, $2.5 million doesn't go as far as it used to.
You can't afford the lazy boy rocket.
Apparently not, yeah, so that's what the 25,000, I mean, I don't know, do we, any
No, I
discussion
think
on
they
that? Yeah, that's.
Probably need to have some furnishings.
I
in
think
there.
they've been pretty upfront about that. I think
Yep.
that was explained to us right from day one that they were going to have to come before us for some extra money. The Article 2, see if the town will vote to transfer sum 6896 to pay unpaid bills. I don't have a listing of what those unpaid bills. We did have a similar article last year. It wasn't that much money. But I'm sure Barbara has a list of bills that she can provide for us. So again, I don't think there's anything really to discuss there. Article 3 is to continue a practice we've done for the last few years to sort of throw a little bit of money at our OPEB obligation that we have. And we've been doing $20,000 a year, so that's just continuing the practice that we've done for the last 3 years now. Article 4, $10,000 to be added to the building and land article. This is the account that is used for larger maintenance items on the town buildings. I don't know if there's anything specific that this is to cover, or if it's just there for emergency use because stuff happens, as we found out last week again, with the building being closed on Friday from septic issues. So, and then Article 5 is this one. I'm not. This is one I thought we might want to get a little bit more explanation on. Asking for $20,000 to fund renovations and accessibility to the townhouse. Now, I don't know if that's to this part of the townhouse or if that's to the police station part of the townhouse. Anticipating future
Yeah.
use over there. So I wanted some clarification on that.
Yeah.
If it's the town, I mean, it says the townhouse, so I'm assuming it's this part of the building
Right.
as opposed to the police station, but,
And not the old townhouse.
and not the old town, right, exactly, right. Right. I mean, I guess my thought was if it's more designed for the police part of the building, then maybe we need to wait until we have a better idea of how that's going to be used before spending. But if it's accessibility to this side of the building, then we got to do what we got to do. So.
But just some clarification.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Right. I think these just need to be clarified.
Right.
Similarly, we talked about this. This is the fire article. I think. Why do we need tablets now to do our ambulance billing when we didn't before? I mean, why is that a requirement? Tablet to me means that they're going to be doing it on the fly while they're at the scene almost, as opposed to entering it when they get back to the station.
In my tenure, we used a laptop.
Right.
And if they change their billing people, then they'll come in with a different system.
Well, that I understand.
Right.
But does it require a tablet, or is the tablet just nice to have because you can do it maybe a little bit quicker while you're on the scene as opposed to waiting till you get back to the station
Not the hospital.
or right. So I
Or
again,
a laptop. I mean, if you
Or
were
a
using
laptop.
laptops, I
Right.
mean, what's
right, exactly. The other part of this article, me personally, I wished, when the chief presented his requests to us, it was broken down into 3 or 4 separate lines. We had the thermal imaging camera, we had the CPR thing at the time, the gas meters. They were all listed separately, and I thought that was going to be an advantage to us because we could consider all of them separately. When it's one lump sum like this, I think again, this is just me speaking, I don't know that I was ready to approve everything.
All of those things.
right.
So this kind of ties our hands a little bit, although we can always vote a smaller amount of money than what's requested. So that's my only
Get some
comment on it.
clarification on this.
Get some more
Yeah.
clarification on that. Article 7, $9,000 for handicap accessibility repairs to the Plympton Public Library. Now, whether that's related to the previous article, whether, you know, there's a new code we have to come in compliance with for the town campus, I don't know.
So we'll ask about that as
So
well.
I guess we got a lot of clarification we need. $500 for new fuser and rollers for the copier printer scanner in the town clerk office. Apparently that's outside of the scope of the regular supply budget.
And her budget's at 0? I mean, it just can't come out of the budget?
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll find out about that one.
I mean, it's $500. I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too. Yeah.
That's so they can use last year's money. This
You don't
year's
want to
money.
use town clerks
Fiscal year.
money,
Yep.
perhaps.
Yep. Yeah, I know the comment has been made that they print a lot of extra things out of the
For
town
other
clerk's
departments.
office for other departments.
Yep.
So they don't want to necessarily make it
Oh,
appear
right,
as though
use
it's
their
coming
budget.
just from the clerk.
Right.
So, but I agree, $500 to go to town meeting is kind of. $30,000. Again, this is the items that they spoke about to. It'll allow them to make the building eligible or available.
Inhabitable.
Thank you. That's the word I'm trying to come up with. So it's going to clean up the sleeping areas. It's going to clean up the bathroom and the kitchen area and that sort of thing. So that ultimately we can get rid of the trailer.
Which would be nice.
Which would be very nice. Exactly.
We'll gain all that tremendous parking space out there.
Let's get rid of the trailer.
Yeah.
Who cares about the parking space?
It's so attractive.
Yeah. So as we already discussed, this is ultimately from the sale of the fire engine. You know, this is the other half of that money, basically. Yes, it's kind of
Yeah, convoluted, but
yeah.
And just so long as we all remember, and next year they don't come back and say, don't forget,
This is
$60,000
why you've got to
of
come
that,
back next year, Lisa.
of that
This is-
money in free cash is from the fire sale.
This is why.
And the engine, that was purchased as a rescue vehicle.
Article 10, we talked about with the school committee. This is to top off the special ed contingency account, basically. So we funded it last year with $40,000, I believe. They're looking to make it 47, which is the maximum amount we can make it. So this just brings it up to the maximum amount. Copy machine. School committee talked about when they were here. I think they said their existing one is.
Not being serviced, so we're not serviceable anymore.
Yeah, well, it's yeah. And then the roof repairs too. And again, if you remember, this is.
If you want to.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
So Article 12 is for the roof repairs, and again, this is to get us, it's to Band-Aid it until we can hopefully get to the magic number of years where we can maybe possibly get reimbursed for full roof job. These are placeholders that have not been officially submitted, I guess.
okay. All of them?
Just the two in
the
yellow.
Two of them?
The two in yellow, yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, obviously they're expecting them to be submitted, but I don't know anything more about that. The school one I hadn't even seen until just now, so. Didn't we just pay last year or the year before to put lights up on that field?
I think they did a lot of fundraising to do that. I don't know if it was in their budget. I don't know, yeah, I don't know what those are.
I remember hearing about it at the school committee, at the meeting at the high
I
school.
thought there was something last year
Yeah.
about putting lights up at the field. So several items that we need to get some clarification on. These have been, the numbers over here must have been submitted by Barbara and Liz as recommendations. It's certainly nothing that we have discussed or voted on, but this, I'm guessing, is Barbara's recommendations for funding.
Where is that? Highway, assessors, 6,000 in the red.
I don't know why it's in the red.
That's an indication. It's
Oh,
over
you know what?
budget.
I might have put it in the red because I don't know what it means.
Oh.
I think so. I think I just put it in the red to call it so that somebody like you would notice and ask me what it was about. Yeah, I don't know. There are 3 articles. Do we have?
What are you looking for?
The draft of the annual warrant.
I have one. Got it?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I don't know why they're, all 3 of them are lumped. Oh, okay, so they're placeholders again, all right. But they're zoning bylaws, 16 and 17 are zoning bylaws, which wouldn't require any money. And 38 is not on my copy. Do you have 38 on?
No, I just goes up to 35.
It's the same as, not the same as me.
Yeah.
Let's see if we have a more recent version here.
Oh, you do.
37.
37 is the elections.
There is
That's
no
always the
38.
last one. See, they've got a placeholder,
Maybe that's the 38.
but it's listed in the budget as 6,000, and this says 1,500. And I thought the warrant
Oh, and
was
the other
closed.
2 you said were, tonight it closes, right?
I thought the annual was already closed. Didn't it close last time?
Oh, yeah, maybe
The
it
special,
did.
the special is still open.
Yeah,
Until next week. Or no, a week from Monday, 22nd.
Mhm.
Special's open till the 22nd, but I thought the annual had already closed.
you're right, I think it was the 24th or something like that.
Okay. So Article 36 is the Council on Aging request for a handicap accessible van.
I had that as 34. Where's 34? Did they change all the numbers?
if they put something in between.
Okay.
School
So they did,
resource
okay.
officer, okay,
Okay.
all right. So, well, let's talk about the van first. They've been coming to us for a couple of years now, requesting a van. Initially, they wanted a second vehicle, but they, according to this article here, they are going to trade in the current vehicle. Again, we don't have a ton to go on here. I'm assuming Liz does. We had talked about this as part of the capital plan, and it was not coming up for fiscal 20. So that's, I guess, my only comment here is we had sort of budgeted it for, I think, 22. So the discussion needs to be, is there a compelling reason? Now, I know this one is designed to be more accessible than the current vehicle. So,
Right.
but again, and this is a little bit ahead of schedule for what we were planning on.
12 grand almost sounds like a,
Well, I think
lease. That's
it's
a lease.
That's
yeah,
at least,
it's
I've got a
she-
$55,000 number here.
Yeah, and I know
Sounds like checker.
for the like the fire vehicle, Barbara had roughly taken
Put lease numbers
25%.
in,
Yeah.
right, and the
So-
fire, the fire and the police.
So again, that's I don't. I don't know what more to say about that other than it's ahead of schedule.
Yeah, it would be nice to know, like, is it because now they have some seniors that need the accessibility?
Exactly.
And that's why it needs to be pushed up?
Or are we required by law to provide it, or anything like that? I don't know those answers. So the resource officer for the school. The $14,000 was determined to be Plympton's share of what a resource officer would cost. And the explanation that was given was that Kingston is supplying the resource officer for the high school. They pay the full salary for that officer, full time. So that leaves Halifax and Plympton to potentially cover the cost of
Middle school.
the middle school resource officer, which is a half-time resource officer. It's budgeted at $50,000. So they arrived at our $14,000 by the percentage of students that are from
Plympton to
Plympton
Halifax.
and Halifax. So Halifax is approximately 75%. We have approximately, I think it's 78 and 22 or something.
Okay.
So that's how that number was arrived at. So that's how we got the $14,000. It doesn't speak to whether it's appropriate for it to be a separate article or whether it should be part of their budget. I think that's, kind of a bigger question that we need to decide. I believe Halifax is not in favor of, I don't want to say they're not in favor of the resource officer, because I think people understand the need for a resource officer, but they're not in favor of it being appropriated separately outside of the budget. Or they don't understand why it appeared outside of the budget. Why couldn't they have added it to the budget?
Is it just because the other resource officer isn't in the budget? Because Kingston's paying it?
Probably.
Because if they put it in the budget, it then gets split between the three towns again.
Right, Kingston would have to pay a portion of this
Right.
one as well.
Right.
Correct. I'm sure that's
Right.
what it is.
And in the long run, it probably is less money than if they put both resource officers into the budget
And then divided.
and divide it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yep.
We're sure it's not already in the budget? How are they paying
Yeah, I
the
think
police department?
Well, that's
they don't pay the
They
police
don't pay,
department for
they don't reimburse,
Kingston.
they don't
'Cause it's
reimburse.
No, because it's a Kingston police officer and Kingston's covering the cost.
Okay.
But this officer would have to be paid.
But the question came up, so what happens, you know, in the summer? You know, what does this police officer do in the summer?
Well, is that the 50%? Is that why it's only budgeted at 50%?
Possibly.
Because I'm sure the officer is working for Kingston in the
Right.
summer.
Right.
So we're not paying a full salary, we're paying half of his salary.
I still don't understand why the Kingston Police Department is not being reimbursed by the school department.
It seems kind of, I don't know, unusual.
It does seem to be a little unusual to me.
Yes. Do we have opinions, thoughts on what we would like to do? I can try to get answers.
I'm just concerned that it may not be that they're reimbursing the police department now, but they quite likely could be in the future. I mean, and then it would be in the budget, and would we even know it was in the budget?
Right.
Well, I would think that would be a pretty big increase. They'd have to have a line for a pretty big increase if they're putting the police officer in there.
I would think that might show, yeah. But I wouldn't,
And in that case, if they put the high school officer in there, they'd have to put the middle school officer in there at the same time. So it would be probably $150,000 in the budget.
Yeah. No. Right.
No, I'm just saying, I think that if they do end up putting them both in the budget, that we would know about it. I don't think they could just slip that into the budget without us knowing about it.
But it still begs the question: is why isn't it in the budget though?
and why would the police department not want to be reimbursed?
Well, I think the police department, they're in Kingston, and the police department just felt it was good to have an officer on
I
scene
think that's
at the high
great.
school.
I think that's great if that is what is going to be expected in the future.
I mean, I don't know. Kingston could change their mind at any point
They could.
and
yeah,
say,
they
you know,
could.
I do think that if we vote this down, and I think Halifax should think about it too, that Kingston may say, okay, well then forget it.
I
Let's
think-
just put them
yeah.
both in the budget, you know. I don't know.
So this on the right here is the email that was received on Friday from Dr. Blackwood. Now the job description is, 4 pages long, or his interpretation of what he does, and it's everything from being a good role model to keeping kids.
A .5 resource officer?
Yeah.
But now it's 1.0. They increased it this year.
High school's in session from what, 7:30 in the morning till 2?
Yeah, he's probably, I don't know when he gets there, or he or she gets there.
Till 7 to 14.
You gotta figure 8 or 9 hours a day, I would think.
Yeah.
So it's $100,000 for both schools.
No,
No, they're saying it's $100,000 for the high school.
now.
They're
because they
taking a
went from
half position
0.5
and making it a
to
$50,000 position
Okay.
for the
Middle school.
middle school. Which, I mean, that seems a little high to me.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at I don't think you folks were copied on the list of, the Board of Selectmen have come up with a list of town employees and their salaries. We're going to publish it. And the list of the police officers is broken down. And we have a couple of officers making $100,000, but nobody is salaried at $100,000. So $50,000 for half a position seems like a lot. I think it would be less than that.
It's a lot of details.
And
Well, it does, it's too, how is it half a position? Is he only there half of the school day? Is it the full school day? But
Well,
that's
I think, like you said earlier, it's probably taking into account that there's
Summer.
nobody in, yeah, right, July, August, or, June, July, August, pretty much, and then
In school vacation.
in December, yeah, so there's roughly at least 3 months out of the year that they wouldn't be there.
There's 180, the
4 months. Right? Yeah.
requirement for Massachusetts is you have to be in
180
class
days.
180 days.
Right, but they probably schedule 190 just to be safe.
What's our percentage of all three schools?
Like 11.
It's been
12,
around
13.
11, yeah.
And what's 11% of 150,000?
16.5.
So it wouldn't be that different
No, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be.
if it was,
If we're still, I mean,
for us at least, for Plympton, it wouldn't be that different.
right.
I kind of think it's better not in the budget. Goes in the budget, then it gets the annual increases, and if it's in a warrant article, you see that's the amount, that's what it is. If it stays that amount for the next, I mean, maybe it's too much, maybe we don't want to do it because of that. I kind of think it's better in the warrant article for us than it is putting it in the budget.
I don't necessarily disagree with your reasoning.
Plus it's harder to cut once it's in the budget. I mean, it's easier to vote a warrant article to say no than it is to say, now we're gonna cut $150,000.
Oh, you're never gonna get anybody that's gonna
No.
say, they're never gonna say no.
Particularly these days.
They're never gonna say no.
I don't know, which do we want? They can't put it in the budget unless they put them both in the budget. Do we wanna, if the 3 towns are paying for them, maybe they should just be in the budget. Or both offices.
I mean, if it's a legitimate expense, to me, it should be in the budget, I think. I think that's how I feel. I don't know.
Is it something that could be approved, like you approve a new position in the annual meeting, but tell them we want it to be moved into the budget? I don't know, is it, we've done that before with other positions.
Well, and the other part of it is, let's just say hypothetically, we approve it, but Halifax doesn't. Does that mean it's null and void? Because it's
Yeah,
not,
no,
it's
it's
not
not
like when 3 towns are
majority.
involved.
That's true.
It would, if one town approved and the other town did not,
I would think it wouldn't pass.
it wouldn't pass because
There's no majority.
there's no majority. There's,
Okay, a silly question, but is there's resource officer for the middle school going to be there full-time
During
during
the
school
day.
year?
Yep.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
yeah.
I don't,
I would hope so.
we were not part of the discussion, so, but
Right.
that's what I would assume.
These are tough years.
Okay, I will try to find out more information. Lisa, did you get this email?
I did.
Okay.
You know, yep, it is what it is. I mean, yep, there are increases, steps that go really high percentages. It's not good. It is not good. It's not good because now it's being touted as the standard. You know, it's causing all kinds of ripple effects.
Right. Right.
your portion of that, and when I was earning a salary, it was based on how you performed.
You were working for a union, right? Oops.
I was management. I was a programmer. They classified me as management.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So looking at the other articles, I think financial audits is nothing we do. Police cruiser, we do that every year. Road construction, we had put it in as 200,000. Rumor was it was not going to be that much, but I have not seen a new number yet. They were looking to do something less than that, maybe 150,000. The fire department leases is the same number it's been for years. The fire command vehicle, I wanted to discuss that, to see what the committee's thoughts were on that. If you remember, the fire chief made his presentation for a modified, modified F-250 kind of a vehicle, a 1-ton pickup truck, to enable him to carry extra equipment and such. It was approximately 30% higher than the Chevy Tahoe that was the sort of the standard vehicle that most other area fire chiefs were.
See, I think what
were
we have
using.
now is an expedition.
It's an expedition, yeah. And it's not, and I, when I said an F-250, that's the example he gave. It's not, it's not necessarily specifically an
He
F-250.
wants a three-quarter
It's that
ton pickup.
size. It's a 1-ton he wanted.
One ton.
He wanted
With,
a 1-ton. So,
multiple seats. Two rooms.
Yeah.
I wanted to throw it out for discussion. I think the command vehicle has come before this committee a few times in the last couple of years, and we have always voted it down because we didn't think it was necessary at this time. I don't know how I feel about whether it's necessary or not. I think the request is more truck than seems to be needed, in my layman's opinion.
What's the age of the current vehicle he's driving? Do you know, like how much longer we can expect that one if we were to keep it?
I know he said it had about 100 and something thousand miles on it. Let's see if I can dig that out. Yeah, I want to. An 11 sounds about right.
Yeah, for that amount of mileage.
Yeah.
I just. I don't want to be the guy that always says no, but I wasn't. It's a 2011 Ford Expedition, current mileage approximately 110,000. I just wasn't swayed by the explanation as to why this truck was needed versus what every other fire chief in the state is using. And by every other, obviously, I'm being.
His immediate influence from the chief's perspective would have been Lance Benjamino. I don't know what he's got over there,
Middleborough, you mean?
but yeah.
I mean, he mentioned personnel transport, which either vehicle could do. He mentioned towing, which either vehicle could do.
What would be the difference in the lease price? Like if we want to.
It's about a $15,000. So $68,000 is what he estimated his vehicle would cost total, and the Tahoe was about 52 or 53.
That size vehicle, you could carry meters, first aid kit, because the chief is a paramedic, which is different from his predecessors. Backboards, Halligan bars.
How long a lease is that supposed to be?
Well, again, Barbara, if you look at it over here, the capital fund, we sort of estimated it as a quarter. So 18,000 times 4 is 72,000. So that's just an approximation what we thought it would be for the first year if we were to lease it.
I mean, I don't know. Do we want to just approve something less so you can get your command vehicle if you can get it for this amount?
I wasn't sure what you guys thought about it. You heard the same presentation I did. been on the committee as long as I have been, most of you, so I don't know what your thoughts were. If we can, say that
well,
it's what the chief thinks
I think-
he wants and he needs, I mean, it's what he wants, it's what he thinks he needs, so we can go on that.
He definitely wants a four-seater truck, huh?
Yes.
I think we, I have a hard time making a decision on any of these things without knowing where we stand. I mean, I have no idea. Do we have tons of extra money in the budget? Are we down below $250,000? I mean, and when are we gonna know? When are we gonna I can't make a vote on anything without knowing where we stand,
Okay.
personally.
Fair enough.
That's just me.
Fair enough.
You know, because if we're tight and close, and I say, well, then let's tell me he only gets 15,000 in the lease payment a year.
Or
and-
put it off for another year. Totally.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yep.
I think I need to sort of know how close we are and what we need to do to not increase taxes more than 2.5%.
It's not like the bad old days where you just sit here, okay, all right,
Well,
we
we've
don't
ne-
have any limits.
We've
and
never
just-
budgeted to 100% of the levy. The levy goes up
No,
to.
and we- and
No, we don't
we're-
want to
we
though.
don't want to.
And we're not
No,
going to
that's why I
this year
said
either.
2.5%. I don't want to raise taxes more than 2.5%. So where do we need to be to?
What is our excess levy capacity? I don't think that's there.
Hello.
Hi,
Like
how are you?
$700,000.
Good.
Sure.
Like 700, it looks like.
Like-
From that onto that from the
Yeah,
12.
this is our max we could.
That's the max.
That's the max. This is our target.
Okay.
So it's about a $700,000 difference. 720 almost. We get questions.
Hopefully I have answers.
I'm sure you do.
Okay.
Maybe one, maybe two.
So the first question was, we looked at the special town meeting warrant articles, and we noticed that there were several items that were going to be paid for by funds from the group health excess.
Yes.
So the question came up, that's great. Do we need $500,000 here? If we're gonna be so far under here, wouldn't we,
Could we possibly reduce that by more?
yes.
Because we were under by 100,000 the year before also.
Barbara and I had talked about that a little bit. I think when the initial request was made, it was for greater than that. I want to say it was like for was it 573 or 5? It was something with a 3 at the end, I think. So she had us reduce it to the 500 the last meeting that we had.
Yeah,
And she seemed comfortable with that number, but she did acknowledge.
but I guess, I mean, if we look at, fiscal 17 actual is 324, 18 is 350, and it sounds like 19 is coming in somewhere around 350 as well, because you're projecting to have $145,000 extra.
Would you rather reduce that by a little bit so that we don't have that full amount tied up for the time being? Where I'm somewhat new to the process, the only question that I would have, and I can ask Barbara, she's coming back over here, we kind of swap spots for a little bit.
Oh,
here.
okay, all right,
She's
good.
in the selectmen's meeting now.
Okay,
My only concern would be where it's a group health line. I would want to make sure that there was no caveat that like we were unable to come back to you for a transfer request in the event that it wasn't sufficiently funded. I don't know where that's kind of like a different type of line item, but I would imagine that we could reduce that at least by a little bit more, so that you don't have that money kind of already spoken for going into the budget. So maybe you want to reduce it, I don't know, by another 50,000, and then let's just double check with Barbara and make sure.
I would say
as
at
far as
least
the transfer
50,000,
request.
if not 100.
I was gonna say.
No, I wasn't.
I mean,
Daring.
because, and the thing, do we know the percentage? Have we heard?
No, No,
Well,
she hasn't shared that with me.
And the only other reason that would go up would be if we all of a
Change
sudden
of personnel.
added a bunch of people, and we
We're
haven't.
not, there were no plans to do that.
Right,
So
so,
anybody who's outgoing, we would replace them, but it would be like a one-to-one replacement.
Right, and somebody
We don't have
who-
any plans to do a mass hiring.
and maybe the person that's outgoing didn't take our insurance, and the new
And
person
somebody-
might.
right.
So, I get there's a little bit of flexibility or potential difference there, but it just seems as though we always have this extra money.
We could probably, I mean, if I had to just say off the top of my head without discussing it any further with her, I would say like 50 to 75,000. If you want to do 100,000, I think we should just wait until she comes back in here, because I don't want to shortchange something.
Yep. Well, we'll put in 75 for now.
Just where it's
And we'll
different,
see.
like in my mind, some of those up there, like the insurance premiums, the Medicare line, things like that, I just don't know. I would want verification from her on the accounting side of things if there were any implications for that, as far as like inability for a transfer request or things of that nature.
Sure. Sure. We had a question about the resource officer.
Yes, and I still have not received anything. I did communicate with Joy Blackwood, and she assured me that she would get me something within the next few days. That was last week. I saw her at the dentist school at a function. She had said she'd try to get it to me by the end of last week.
Well,
And
we
I said,
got
well,
some- we
I
did get
definitely
something.
need it by Monday afternoon, but I
Well, we
haven't
got the
received-
explanation as to why we're at 14.
Right.
But I guess the bigger question is, why is it not in the budget?
Right, right, and I'm still waiting for that
Okay.
response.
Okay. And then we had a question about the van for the Council on Aging.
Yes,
Primarily because we understand now that they're not looking to have a fleet.
correct.
That they're looking to replace the existing van. But the question was, is that because there is a need specifically for a more accessible van? Is this anticipating future needs? The reason we ask is because we had it budgeted in the capital plan, but not for another couple of years.
So from what I've been told, and I've met with Joy a couple different times and we've discussed this, it's both really. It's in part due to some issues with the current van reliability-wise. They are bringing people for a ton of doctor's appointments, and they're bringing them all over the place, like not even just local, like bringing people to and from Boston, bringing people for dialysis, like they're running almost what I would call like a full-time transportation service. And the van just isn't, it's not accessible. To some people it is, but it's not by definition an accessible vehicle. So their hope was to trade that in while there's still some decent value associated with it. And we could look at what would get us the best value, either selling it outright as like disposition of town-owned property. We'd have to look though to make sure that that's, you know, like as far as what the values would be, what makes the most sense. Or they could trade it in direct. That saves a little bit in the process as far as you don't have to go through a lengthy procurement process if you just do the trade-in. That's what Chief Dillon does with a lot of the police vehicles. When he's getting a new one, the old one simply gets traded in and it saves everybody a lot of headaches. I would just want to make sure we were getting the most for it.
Sure.
And then have something that's accessible. It is being utilized very heavily every single day. The few times during the year that Jim, who's the primary driver, that he's on vacation, then they have, Jackie Freitas does a lot of driving, so sometimes she's using it. It's just, it's getting used all the time. They deliver meals in it, but it's really the doctor's appointments that are, so when the request came in from Joy for this year, and I remember last year too, there being some confusion with the way that the request was worded. This year she filled out a capital form, but she wanted 30,000 total for the van. And there's no way that a handicap accessible van
Right.
is going to only cost 30,000. So I sat down with Barbara, we went over some numbers, and we figured we would do the lease to own program, which is what we do for most town-owned vehicles. And kind of go about it that way. But there is definitely a need for it. It's constantly being used, like multiple times a day, and it's going all over the place.
So we don't really know, you've got 70,000, no, sorry, where are we? So 30,000 here, so,
That was what was requested. We were thinking that it would probably be more along the lines of like 60,000 realistically for a van that's accessible like that, that has those features. So we were thinking we would do a lease program for 5 years.
yeah, and I understand that, but, so we really don't know what the cost is. It could be, you say 60, it could be 75 or 80 for a fully accessible van.
Right, but we could also look then at make and model and what was gonna cost the best. 60 seemed to be like a very solid estimate from what we looked at. There are a few dealerships that are on the state's list of like approved vendors that you don't have to go through a lengthy procurement process.
Okay.
And that seemed to be what we were looking at cost-wise. I mean,
Okay.
again, that could change a little bit. But like everything, there are different options and features that maybe we don't have to get. Obviously, the accessibility package we would want, but maybe it has to lack other features to get it to the price point that we're agreeing.
Like air conditioning.
Okay, okay. There were several items on the special that we were just kind of,
Sure.
Article 5 talks about accessibility repairs to the townhouse, and is that something that's we're being required to do? Is it mandated? Is it the townhouse? Is it the police station
That's for
side of the building? or-
That's for the townhouse, but for the police station side, once they vacate it, so that it can be accessible and used by everybody. Right now, the restroom that's up there, that's not accessible. There's no accessible means of getting to it from inside the townhouse. So that's more for ADA compliance that we were looking at doing that.
And what's the goal for use of that side of the building?
Well, we were hoping that it would be accessible not just for seniors, but obviously for everybody, from a townwide ADA policy. Right now, the selectmen are still looking at what the best reuse of that space is going to be. I tend to think, and this is just my personal view, this is not necessarily the view of the board, but is that we take those people who are on the basement level essentially of the townhouse, that lower level, like building, conservation, zoning, wiring, planning, all those different boards, committees, and that whole office, and that we bring them up and create somewhat of a planning, land use, building, permitting central, if you want to call it that. Those offices down there frequently get water. When I say frequently, I mean sometimes, last year it was happening as often as every like 6 to 8 weeks. You'd come in on a Monday and they'd have 2 or 3 inches of water down there. And Steve would have to clean it all up. That's records getting wet. They had to elevate some of the computer equipment. And it's just really not, I don't think, the best working conditions to have people down there like that. So I think elevating them up would be a good plan. There's also been some talk about, there's actually quite a big space up there. And if we were to even consider taking down some of the walls, which I've been told we could get potentially some free help to do, free qualified help to do that, to kind of open the space up a little bit more. So right now it's kind of compartmentalized up there. But also to create a space for the seniors, maybe a meeting room, or maybe give them more of a suitable office space. Like right now, the Council on Aging, we have several boards and committees that use their office and their little space as their main meeting rooms. It's just not conducive to some of the stuff. And they also have a lot of equipment that they keep on hand, that they use on a regular basis. They have some wheelchairs, they have some of the assistive devices for the toilet and everything. And they could really use maybe a secondary space. Or if we didn't want to go with that idea, we could always create an extra meeting space maybe up there, or something like that. But there's quite a few options on the table. The selectmen sent out a survey via email, first to the people who work in the building, just to kind of get their viewpoints on it. And then we were gonna send something out, like on a more at-large basis to get viewpoints. But the main things that came back were for like moving the building department and all those associated folks up, or doing something for council on aging. Those seemed to be the main themes that kept coming back in the people who responded to the survey. But we're gonna wanna retrofit the space, or at least, I mean, it's a big space, so I think we need to make some sort of use out of it. And, you know.
I don't disagree with that. I think our question is, not knowing what the ultimate use of the space is, does it make sense to spend money
Well,
prior to making a determination of what we're gonna use it
we
for the
wouldn't
building?
spend any money until we identify the reuse, but we would like to have it in place because regardless, it's still a public building and all aspects of it should be accessible, even to those who are handicapped, just to be in line with the state's current regulations pertaining to ADA. I think it's almost a necessity, even if, I mean, somebody
Even if
could
it's an empty
probably-
building?
Well, we wouldn't leave it empty.
No, I know, I'm just.
I mean, even now, I think it's questionable as far as getting people up there now. If somebody wanted to make an issue, they probably could. The other good part about making it accessible is that then you've also kind of eliminated that issue with the assessor's office also being somewhat inaccessible. And I'm using that as far as the state definition sense of the word accessible.
Oh, because it's up those 3 stairs. You wouldn't have to go up there, you'd be on that level.
Right, like they
Yeah.
could access from whichever point we made accessible.
Is that handicap ramp that's out back that goes up to the police station, is that
There's the one.
usable?
There's the one that goes to the basement. That's kind of a steep grade. It probably wouldn't meet the definition of being
There's,
wheelchair accessible.
there's one that goes up into the
That's
back
the
to
Board of Health.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the Board of Health one. The big wooden one
Yeah.
that you see on that goes direct to the Board of Health office. And only to the Board of Health.
Okay, the next question was on the fire, the change in the fire article, which is great news that we got the grant to pay for the CPR unit.
Yes.
But we had a question about the need for tablets to do
So-
billing if we haven't needed them before.
So actually, what we're doing right now, we went out to bid for a
Right.
new ambulance billing and collection service. And it looks like we're going to make out on that deal by approximately 2%. The 4 bids that came in were all for a 4% rate. Right now, we're at a 6% with our current vendor. As part of switching to a new system, the one that the chief is inclined to go with, which is, again, it's the 4% instead of 6. That one operates primarily using these tablets, and forgive me, I don't have the technical name for them. They're not like regular tablets. They're like a special edition public safety tablet, and it makes it so that when they do the ambulance runs, like everything coordinates automatically and electronically. And it saves a little bit of manpower on both ends, and it's part of the system. The tablets, I believe that they would need 3 of them, and they were estimated to cost, I believe, about $3,000 or $4,000 a piece. But once you have them, the good part is that then the company basically self-insures them. So if anything happens to the tablets, if it stops working, if they drop it, if they run it over, they get a new one for free. But the initial cost for getting the tablets and enrolling in the program is about $3,000, I believe, per tablet, were the numbers that he and I went over today. He could provide a better explanation than I could. We were actually just discussing this today because I said, oh, we need to change that and delete the CPR devices from the article now that we got the grant. And then we opened the bids last week. We haven't awarded yet, but obviously that's going to be helpful. for
Are
the
these,
town.
does this system work only on tablets?
That I don't know. I can get you that information though. I think maybe the best course of action here, because this all happened this morning, once he had a chance to go through the bids at the end of last week, and then once it seemed like we were leaning towards that company that does the tablet-based program, which is what a lot of fire departments are doing in the area. The RFP was kind of modeled after the town of Abington. They had a successful rebid for this type of service. He came in this morning and said, well, wait a minute, we need this for that. So I kind of like swapped it out in here. But he didn't give me anything formal yet in writing. So I think maybe I should get that from him and forward it to you. And then maybe at your next meeting, when we're kind of finalizing everything, you can make a recommendation vote at that point, once you have all the information. So I don't want to leave something out if there's something important. I mean, we had a 10-minute discussion about it today. I made the change on
And it sounds
here.
like, it's not like you're buying them iPads or anything. They're
No,
actually
it's nothing like that. It's like a
a point of sale type thing, but with the
yes,
computer,
and it's like
with
a
the
rugged looking
ambulance.
little gizmo. But I just want to get some
yeah,
of
we
these
should get some
questions
information on
answered because it was only about a 10-minute conversation that I had with him today.
I just want to make sure that the information that they're using in the software would be available on something other than just tablets. I mean, if they changed in the future, would they be able to transfer material or information or? I mean,
Right,
it's-
right.
I know.
I believe so, because I'm pretty sure that it's like a computer database as well. And part of that is that they have to come here from the company that gets selected and install that on the machines and kind of get it up and running. He was mainly with me kind of mentioning the warranty program for them, that it is a one-time expense. You could basically run them over and they would be replaced free of charge, no questions asked, within 24 hours. But let me get you, I'll have him do a write-up on it and forward that to you well in advance of your next meeting so that you're equipped to vote.
Please, thank you.
Sorry, I'm late.
That's okay. The $9,000 for handicap accessibility to the library, it says repairs. Is it repairing existing?
Yeah, so
Ramps
the
and such?
doors keep, it's happened repeatedly now. The doors keep getting taken in the wind because they're just not that heavy duty. They don't have like the full electronic handicap accessibility features. So they keep getting taken in the wind and almost like hyperextended. So we've had to pay for people to come out and repair the doors countless times. We received one cost estimate that put it like right around just a hair under $9,000, which is the reason for the request. We are gonna go out and get 2 more prices and make sure that we get the best possible deal for that. But I've witnessed firsthand attending some of the Council on Aging events there. It is a problem trying to get people in and out of there. Like if somebody has a walker or a cane, and the doors have repeatedly broken in various storms, so.
Okay. The $500 for the town clerk copier, we had two sort of questions on that. Why wouldn't it just come out of the town clerk's equipment supply budget? And secondly, $500 for a warrant article seemed kind of,
The prior town clerk put in for that, so we just did a direct transition. Barbara and I discussed that at length, and we weren't certain. You know, we just wanted to,
but it could come, I mean, she's got $6,000 in that line.
And isn't there a
I don't think
townhouse?
this- I think it's
equipment
tight.
they do,
I don't
I
think
have
there's
to
a lot
say,
Well, that's why we
Yeah.
have a reserve fund.
in the past,
I understand.
Okay, no,
that.
I'm just- I'm-
We talked about it
We
back and
talked
forth,
about it.
whether it
Should we
should
just
be an
delete
article or
it,
just
or-
tell her to pay it through her budget, and we didn't get real fast, so we just
Okay,
put it in.
yeah.
all right. In that case, speaking on behalf of the FinCom, we're going to pass over that one.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I mean, I just,
I didn't know I had to second
it.
We weren't certain.
we didn't, I made an executive
It
decision,
seemed like
sorry.
a small amount. I wasn't sure for the
And it-
reasoning, but we,
May I?
Of course.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to
No,
try to
please.
override you. It's just being transferred from another budget that has sufficient money, just so you know it wasn't going
Right.
to change
I-
much of anything.
I think we get all of that. I
Okay.
think it's just,
That's fine. No, I have no problem.
It's kind of the
with
principle
what
of
you
the thing, I
just
think.
said. I understand what you're saying. and I have
Who
no
seconded
problem.
that?
no, we didn't have, it wasn't
Was
really
not-
unofficial.
not-
though.
okay,
I was-
not unofficial?
I was being
Unofficial?
I was being facetious.
Okay.
do you want to go back to that group health thing now?
Yes, we
that
do.
Barbara's here?
Yes, we do. So Barbara, we had a question about the group health. We noticed that we're funding a lot of the special town meeting stuff out of the change, sorry, I'm going the wrong direction. The change in the group health. So the question became, if group health is consistently overfunded at town meeting, could we maybe cut back on the amount that we vote this year going forward? Because if we've been consistently around 350, and it sounds as though we're going to be around 350 for fiscal 19, why are we requesting 500 for fiscal 20?
It was, I believe the 500 is just the one and, it's less than the 1.5% that they were being told that they're gonna get an increase through Plymouth County. And they still don't know what the increase will be for the medics or Medicare. Do I feel that you could go down a little more?
I mean, looking at actuals versus the budget,
I agree.
we're funding an extra 20% or more.
I don't think it's that high. With the 500, I don't, back again. There again, we don't know if we'll get new people taking the insurance in any given year, and it's always been a good idea not to go back to square one to what we had the year before, because if you get an employee coming in, you're looking at $10,000 or $12,000. So we've always put 2 or 3 employees in there because not knowing what the school's doing, and 90% of them will take
We were
the
looking at
insurance.
425,000.
I would rather see it 450 if you're gonna do it. And that
Well,
would
really,
cover-
we wanted to do 375.
No, we wanted to do 400. We wanted to do 400. We compromised on 4.25. Okay, we'll talk about that. Thank you. Do we have any other questions for either
You
of
had a
these?
question on the one before, that article before you started. What was it here? It was on 4, Article 4, the $10,000 to the building. You were wondering where the money was
that's
coming
to-
from?
Oh, yeah,
Building maintenance.
right, so
every
that's in
year
anticipation of,
That's
of
for
something
future-
disastrous
yeah.
For
happening.
no, we don't want more disasters. We've had enough this year. And we've used quite a bit of what we had in there, and it's just replenishing.
Replenishing, yeah.
Where we have some funds in the group insurance to put it
Yes.
back in there, so if we break another pipe or something else goes wrong, we have some money that we can do it instantly without trying to go through you guys.
okay.
Gorilla has a bunch of problems. if it's
Yeah,
broken
I
pipe
know,
there.
yeah, I've seen that. There are some when you get water all over the place, it's too late, you gotta start.
While we're here.
Sure.
On the, can you go down to to the transfer station budget just for a quick second.
Kind of highway, isn't it?
Yes, it's near highway.
There it is.
There it is.
Line
So
335.
transfer station,
36.
it's 330, yeah.
338.
So in that, was it that one?
Yep,
They
that's the one
already
I
gave
told you.
the increase, okay. So where you went down to the 60, the feedback that I received was even if you didn't want to fund any of that overtime, because remember they were requesting a very large amount to cover like overtime and everything.
Yep.
What they did ask was if you could add a few thousand in to simply cover when the one full-time employee that works there all the time,
The
who's
one
entitled to
benefit-
vacation and
benefits
sick
element.
time. So if he's out on vacation or sick leave, just so they can pay, because they'd have to pay him if he's on vacation or sick time, so that they can pay somebody else to come in and
for
cover.
him.
Because sometimes they have like a line going out of the place, and if he took something off on, say, a Saturday, like a very
he's on
busy day,
vacation.
if he's on vacation or out sick, they would need to bring in extra help. So they didn't want the budget to be so exact and razor thin that it left no wiggle room for when he's, I mean, he is entitled to the vacation time. So they were hoping that you could add a little bit back in there to that 60,000 number, just to give them a small cushion, because they know that he's going to use the vacation
Sure.
time and be able to have another person come in.
And let me say, can I also just say that fiscal 19 was the first year he got a vacation? So this hasn't been going on all along, and they're covering you for his vacation. It's just started this fiscal year, and it's gonna be.
They just want to be able to plan ahead for it and not need to come back to you
He gets
for
40 hours.
a
of-
transfer.
He gets 40 hours of vacation.
You said fiscal 19 was the first year that,
He's gotten vacation.
right. So, I mean, that 60,520 represents a 4.25 increase. So we did take,
Yeah, but he didn't have vacation in 18.
Jim never put in for
He
it though
didn't
in the
put-
but
last
I'm looking at the
budget.
budget for 19 and adding 4.25.
Right, but
Right,
there was
but there's
no vacation in
extra
there.
added in there to call in to be paying both Art's salary.
So
Yeah,
fiscal
so-
19 wasn't a vacation
They
taken.
Jim
didn't- they
didn't put
didn't
in
do it.
for it.
No.
So they'll likely have a shortage at the end of this fiscal year and need to come see you. It's just where they know that he has the vacation time.
Mhm.
They just thought it was better to be upfront about that and kind of plan ahead rather than knowing that they'll be short by a little bit.
I think if you added a couple of thousand to it, it would cover it. He doesn't make a lot of money.
As I said, if we added $800, it would probably cover it, wouldn't it?
But if he's out sick, the same thing could happen, so if you went a little more, it would cover both.
Yep.
Because
That's why
they-
we have a reserve fund.
Okay, we will take that under advisement.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Another item that came in that as long as Liz is here, she can speak to as well. You remember we had an article that was originally submitted for $280,000, $250,000 for the building. So we received a letter after our last meeting. The fire chief, I can read you the letter, but there was a letter received addressed to the FinCom dated March 26th, and the gist of the letter is the fire chief has withdrawn his warrant article for the building. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that. I don't know if you want to comment on that at all. I mean, I think it was sort of haphazardly put together last minute from his original proposal. More people got involved than maybe originally should have been, or whatever, and there wasn't enough information for us to make a decision. And rather than create any sort of lingering
Controversy.
bad juju one way or the other. He withdrew the article, and we'll live to fight that another day. So that's the latest on that. We also received a letter from the acting town clerk that I circulated. Did you see this? There you go. It's a copy. I circulated earlier. I didn't get it until this evening myself. I'll read it into the record.
Can you go up to that section on the budget too?
Certainly.
Please.
Yes, yeah, thank you. One of these days I'll remember these numbers. So it's dated April 8th. Nathaniel Sides, Chairman, FinCom. Dear Nate, I watched the video of your March 25th meeting. This is the meeting that you choose to vote the decreases in the town clerk budget. Some of the discussion about the clerk's office was not accurate. I don't want to be insulting in any way by giving you information to your board. I just feel the need to clarify a few points. First, it was stated that fiscal 20 is not an election year, quote unquote. Every year is an election year, not just our annual town election. We have been preparing for 2020 presidential election only months after finishing the 2016 election. Initiative petitions started coming in for certification of signatures in 2017. Board of Registrar hours to stay open past our regular office hours were in 2018 for the November 2020 election. This is only one example. I've enclosed the election calendar for the state for upcoming deadlines, resulting in increased mandated hours to stay open beyond the 22 hours. It is quite extensive. March 2020 is also the presidential primary election. This important election requires 2 election workers to work the 2 weeks of early voting and more hours for the clerk to do the daily reporting.
Just before you go on any further than that.
Certainly, yep.
We didn't adjust any of the lines other than the top line.
Correct.
Okay. Because,
Correct.
okay.
Second, the salary of the town clerk was voted by your board on the number of hours it takes to do the job. The number of hours was far off the mark. There is no way the town clerk can accomplish all the duties the job entails in an average of 25 hours a week. We worked 20 on election day. Third, the salary of the town clerk has not changed every election year to accommodate a possible new person taking office. Tara Shaw took over for Nancy Butler in 2012 with Nancy's salary plus the cost of living increase added. The salary went with the position. Tara was assistant town clerk for less than 2 years before taking office as town clerk. I started working in the clerk's office in June 2012. I have served as assistant town clerk since December 2012. If your recommendation to make changes in the budget are due to your understanding of how many hours it takes to fulfill the duties of the job, I believe there has been a miscalculation and a misunderstanding about the responsibilities for elections, reporting, and training a new employee to learn this very specific position. This is a grand responsibility that I have chosen to undertake. I hope you may reconsider your recommendation at town meeting and support this office. Sincerely, Patricia Detterman, Assistant Town Clerk. As Lisa already mentioned, we did not change any of the support staff lines or election registration lines from what was submitted. I don't recall that we did anyway. So the question is, she's clearly questioning the fact that we reduced the clerk salary itself from approximately 10% from what the previous clerk was making. I'll open it up for discussion. I mean, I believe, we, if I remember correctly, we did calculate how much it would be per hour. And I think we were comfortable with that number, recognizing that it is a specific job or detailed job, but that the previous salary was reflecting a certain amount of experience and prior knowledge that came into that. So that a new person would not have. And I think we need to take names out of the new person. It's an elected position. It doesn't necessarily mean the incumbent will get it. comments or thoughts? Okay, moving on. We have a couple of reserve fund transfers. The unemployment rears its ugly head again. We have a request for transfer to budget line 30. The amount of $12,000 to cover unemployment expenses for the previous fire chief. Now, we had asked you about this a while ago.
And she gets a bill like almost monthly for about $3,000.
Okay.
Or every 5 weeks, whatever it is. And the only thing is, I don't know, I know the unemployment issue could go to 30 weeks. I don't know if he's getting the full amount or if he's retiring. I have no idea like that.
Okay.
But we're
But
just still
when does the 30 weeks go to?
I mean, it's got to be pretty close because we voted a transfer back in October.
Yeah.
So that's almost 30 weeks right
It'd be
there.
7 months. I don't know when.
Okay, so but it's got to be pretty close. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Colleen may have a better idea of that. than
Okay.
I do.
So the dollar it's 3309 a month for the former fire chief, unknown time limit, but it's got to be pretty close. So we have transferred 13,000 to date to that line. So, hi John. So, any discussion or take a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? So moved unanimously. Get a pen. Go ahead and sign that for me, please, and circulate it around. The second reserve fund transfer is to line 260. It's the legal expense line.
Blocking the show.
And we have previously transferred $10,000 to legal. So they're looking for another $15,000. Any comment, discussion, or just reasoning, or
There's
heavy sigh?
so many different things going on right now that have been using up a lot of hours and resources. We hope to be kind of retiring some of those issues in the near future, but we're just running thin with that for a while now.
So it's not any one item, it's,
It's not any one item. I mean, there are certain things that kind of jump out as being eating up a lot of that budget. For example, the land transfer for the Two Brooks Preserve, really excellent project, but it does require a certain level of legal expertise as far as even just checking the title and doing all of that work. Now they're doing work to put together the RFP to go out to hopefully sell the 2 single-family house lots. And all of these things require legal review. They had to do certain filings for us and everything. So that's one. Our zoning board of appeals has taken on some different matters. There's the pending litigation involving the cell tower case.
okay.
Just to name a few. I mean, no one item has been so significant that it's depleted the whole budget, but it's kind of an overall condition basically of where we're at. I'm hoping though that some of these matters get resolved. We're also paying out of there the legal bills involving pending litigation with Cisco. That required a very specialized legal counsel for that matter. So all of those things, it's adding up, but we do take it very seriously when a board or committee or department head requests time with legal counsel. We evaluate each one of those requests on a case-by-case basis. And we're definitely not treating that just as a free kind of discussion period with counsel. We are assigning a certain amount of time. Honestly, we split it up into 15-minute increments at times. Say, okay, we authorize you 15 minutes to have a phone conversation with council on this or that. But there was quite a bit in this last fiscal year that they were involved with, so kind of is what it is.
Okay. The requested transfer amount is $15,000. If you will notice up on the screen here, that will leave us with a balance of under $1,000 in the reserve fund. Which is what it is. So I don't know if we want to adjust our transfer accordingly, or if we just shut down for business.
Is that how much, like, what we owe in bills right now, Michael?
This is what we've approved so far this year.
No, but I mean, is that what?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay.
It's in the balance on the sheet.
The line expenditure to date is 62,100 roughly. Current line balance is a negative 2,100. So we have currently $2,100 in bills that need to be paid.
Does Bridget though, did she get
She has
another
another
bill
bill.
for 4,300 and
She
change,
said she
I
got another
believe?
bill that was about $5,000.
So we're like
Yeah.
65.
So we
Maybe
could conceivably go less.
What if you did
10,000?
10,000
And then we'll-
and then we'll wait and see?
Yeah, and if we have to go back, we have to go back. I mean, if we have to come back, we have to come back.
I would feel better with that.
We can,
Because I know that another
The
bill
boards-
came in for about
the selectmen and the
4,400 just a few
can
days
move
ago.
money from one line to another.
Okay, so do I hear a motion
So
to
moved.
approve
Second.
$10,000 to line 260, moved and seconded? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So Mr. Trainer from the Board of Selectmen is here to join us. He wanted to discuss an item of a personnel nature. So we are going to go into executive session or adjourn
It's
or...
your meeting.
We've never done this before.
Yeah, executive session. Will
Yeah.
we be coming back to talk about the budget anymore? Or?
We would be, yeah. So I'll entertain a motion to move to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We will adjourn and we'll return.